Sucks to suck. But here's the thing. It's poetic justice, right? You make your bed, you got to sleep in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, KD, he wanted to start a new chapter in Golden State and ruin basketball for 4 years. And he got flack for it. Then he goes to Brooklyn trying to do his own thing, and he's getting flack for that. And now he's going to Phoenix because, winning with Kyrie and James Harden was too hard, I guess. So, there is a little bit of pity for Kevin Durant. But at the end of the day, you made your bed. You got to sleep in it. And this is what's happening. It's almost beautiful to watch.
He's just cursed now ever since that Golden State era. He truly sold his soul, man.
He
truly
sold his
did.
NBA career for 2 rings with Steph. Kevin Durant. Recently, KD has been complaining yet again about his supporting cast. And because of this, rumors have kind of already begun about him potentially jumping ship. I know none of these are necessarily viable rumors, but yet again, there's always rumors around KD. My question for you is, will they ever figure it out in Phoenix? Or is this going to be another failed super team in which Kevin Durant is the cornerstone?
I don't think this Phoenix team is going to be able to figure this specific situation out, mostly because of the hole they put themselves in their whole money situation, right? So they said, hey, let's just get the best possible players we can get on the top end, right? They already had Booker, got Kevin Durant, got Bradley Beal. And then after they trade DeAndre Ayton for Nurkic and Grayson Allen, the rest of their roster has been filled out with minimum players, guys who make almost nothing, such as Keita Bates-Diop, Drew Eubanks, Jordan Goodwin. Eric Gordon might be the best one they have, but even he's complaining about not getting enough shots. So this roster, I think if anything, the modern NBA has shown us there are better players and the league is deeper than ever. And if your roster 5 through 15 is filled with minimum guys, I don't know if you're good enough, because normally you'd want 1 or 2 of these guys as your 9th or 10th guy in your rotation, and you're happy with that. But it's their entire bench. I just don't think they have the talent besides the top 3 guys to be able to really compete at this point.
I agree. I mean, ever since the Bradley Beal trade, I really think that's where they went kind of sideways. I mean, you do that deal because, it's basically a Chris Paul for Bradley Beal swap. Like, essentially is what it was. But ever since that day, you're putting all your eggs in the Bradley Beal basket. And maybe they just didn't give him a physical or something before, because the dude has been injured 95% of the season. And with the lower back injury, you're really rarely the same afterwards. You've said that before on this podcast. And they don't have a cohesive team. It's just a bunch of scorers. Devin Booker, shout out to him. He has played an excellent kind of combo guard role for them, being their primary playmaker. But you just have a bunch of people that are naturally looking to score because that's what they're best at. You don't have a ton of defense, if any at all. Nurkic, I'm surprised he's been healthy for this long in the season, right? So I don't necessarily think the way that the roster is currently constructed, they can truly compete. They're a scary team to play against because any given night they can score 140 points. But their defense is so lacking. And I know it's defense is less important than it ever has been, but still you need to be able to play some defense in spots. So I don't see it working out this year. And like you said, they don't really have much flexibility because Bradley Beal has a no trade clause.
That is true.
Like,
I mean,
yeah.
got rid of, so between the Ayton trade and the Chris Paul trade, they got rid of all of their assets, including draft picks. So they can't even do anything now unless it's like a 1-for-1 swap. But I don't know if even that does enough for them. I mean, outside of the depth I had mentioned was an issue for them, they also have essentially one point guard on the roster, Jordan Goodwin, who's like a bench dude. And I know Devin Booker's been a great passer and he's passing really well, but they honestly just need someone who's going to set up all those scores and not have to worry about getting their own. And on top of that, I also think Nurkic isn't really the right fit for this team. I think they need more of a defensive minded center. As you mentioned, the defense has been an issue. They need someone who can protect the rim, protect the basket, protect these guys on the backside. And they don't have either of
That
those
does not
two
exist with him.
things on this team. So it's going to be kind of shaky. They're basically relying on, once the playoffs come around, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant get us ISO mid-range buckets more than the other team is going to score however they score.
Yeah. My thing is how does this make Kevin Durant look?
I
It
mean,
just
this
yet again
specific team, I
another one.
it it just makes, honestly, his time with Stephen Curry just like more impressive to Steph, I think, as opposed to anything else, because everywhere else he's gone, it hasn't worked out, and there's always drama, even though he doesn't really seem like a dramatic person. It's like something always happens wherever he goes. So, maybe it's time to stop pointing the fingers at all these other people, and maybe there's something about him we really don't know about.
He's an excellent player, but like the great Charles Barkley once said, he's a bus rider, not a bus driver. Right? He was the best player on those back-to-back championship teams with Steph, but it's easy to be the best player on a team like that and win. You could have put Paul George in that scenario, they would have won.
Yeah.
At least those 2 rings that they won. You know what I mean? Like you could have put a similar mold like Kevin Durant that maybe is not as high end talent wise alongside Steph, Clay, and Draymond, and they still probably would have won.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really see that as much of an accomplishment on his part. But even with Golden State, he's the one that decided to leave. He's the one that pointed fingers. Now, granted, Draymond Green, which we'll get to later in this podcast, was probably a big part of that. And but still, it's sad because one of the most talented, gifted players that has ever played basketball is going to basically have a career with a giant asterisk on it. Can't win without Steph.
I mean, and the thing is, I think he's basically going to be stuck in Phoenix for the duration of his contract, because let's say he does theoretically demand a trade this year before the trade deadline, right? The Suns aren't good enough. He wants to leave. Who's going to want to trade for him after all this stuff that's happened recently, right? He asks out of Brooklyn, goes to Phoenix, they give up everything. He gives that basically once 2 half seasons and then asks out again. I don't think people would be necessarily lining up to trade for this guy. So, I mean, with the lack of assets Phoenix has, it feels like this year might be their best chance unless they can get some steals in free agency somehow. But his best chance to win another ring might be post Phoenix, which is in 3 or 4 seasons. So
is he still going to be good? That's the thing. Like, he's going to be dang near 40 at that point.
I think he'll still be a good basketball player. He's not going to be at the level he is now, though, more than likely. I mean, he's 35, probably 38, 39 by the time that contract's up. So, he might be able to ride a bus for another year or two with a different team.
Yeah. All in all, Kevin Durant, just if you're a big KD fan, this is another gut punch. And to be honest, you kind of deserve it. So
I also want to add real quickly, I think it's hilarious because the whole in the NBA Twitter circles, it reminded me of that year the Lakers signed all those old guys to minimum contracts, and everyone was like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
Melo.
they're
Yeah.
so loaded, they're so good." This offseason, they went in and they signed like Bull, who everyone is like, "Oh, he's Victor. He's Kendrick Perkins has him as a depoy candidate, right?" Uh, they signed freaking Damian Lee came back. They signed Metu, Utah Watanabe from the greatest shooter of all time from freaking Brooklyn. And every signing they had, everyone was like, oh, that's such a big signing for them. Well, guess what? Too many guys who are the end of the bench role players are on that team, and it's just not working out for them.
They just don't have role players that can fit a role that they need. They don't have defense. They don't have
They all
the
do the
Ricky
same thing.
Rubio
Yeah.
archetype where he just sets people up, right? You're basically putting way too much playmaking and scoring responsibilities at the same time on Booker and Durant because they're the ones that are getting people open. And then it's almost as if they have to shoot the ball for them sometimes,
Yeah, they need someone
right?
else like off the bench as a self creator
Outside of
where
Eric
those two
Gordon,
don't have to do stuff.
Who has been their best role player, they really are reliant on one or two dudes stepping up, and they never know who that guy is night in and night out.
That's tough.
So sucks to suck. But here's the thing: it's poetic justice, right? You make your bed, you got to sleep in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, KD, he wanted to start a new chapter in Golden State and ruin basketball for 4 years, and he got flack for it. Then he goes to Brooklyn trying to do his own thing, and he's getting flack for that. And now he's going to Phoenix because, winning with Kyrie and James Harden was too hard, I guess. So, there is a little bit of pity for Kevin Durant, but at the end of the day, you made your bed, you got to sleep in it, and this is what's happening. It's almost beautiful to watch.
He's just cursed now ever since that Golden State era. He
He is.
truly sold his soul, man.
He sold
Truly
his
did.
NBA career for 2 rings with Steph.